Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's your boy, Pigskin Pete. Happy Thursday to everybody. So I guess it's been about a week and a half now since I did my initial thoughts on this 2019 Fiesta Bowl semifinal round of the playoffs between Clemson, Tigers, and Ohio State Buckeyes. In that video, I made a lot of general statements about coaching, about the which position groups are better for which team, how they match up together. Just a lot of general statements, and I got a lot of disagreement about it, which is fine, even though there's a lot of statistics you can look at. I'm not a huge stat guy. All right. We're going to go through some stats today, though. But I did get a lot of people requesting to me to do position-by-position matchups. In other words, Clemson's top receiver versus Ohio State's top defensive back. Chase Young versus the left tackle or the right tackle, whatever. And, if I can find time to do that, here's the problem I have with that. Those kind of videos take a long time to do. And there's a lot of channels you can go check that out at. If I can find a way to find a time between now and the game, I will do that. In the interest of time, I just haven't been able to do it. So that's the main reason I don't do a lot of those type of videos. But anyway, that's besides the point. What we're going to do today is take a look at a website called Shaking Up the Southland. I'm sure some of you probably have heard of this. And I'm not looking at this for their opinion. So they do a good job of breaking stuff down, and they'll also give their, whoever the writer is, they'll give their opinion. I'm not interested in their opinion. All right, because you could say this is definitely skewed as far as their opinion goes towards one team or another, and I'm sure there's Ohio State websites that are similar to this that do the same thing. I'm not interested in that. But as you can see here, the headline of this article here is number 2 Ohio State versus number 3 Clemson preview, depth chart and talent and statistical analysis. And anyway, I'm going to just go through some of these numbers here, and then I'll give you my opinion. Okay. All right. Now, first of all, this goes without saying. All right. It's impossible to have a rational conversation about any of these numbers if all you're going to do in the comments section is come on in here and tell me that the statistics don't matter because Clemson plays in the ACC and the ACC sucks. Because all I'm going to say to you, jackasses that tell me that, is that Clemson's been playing in the ACC for a very, very, very long time. And it did not matter the past half of a decade since Clemson's been in the playoffs and winning national championships. Okay? So let's just go ahead and start there. If that's what your answer is going to be to every statistic we look at here, then just go ahead and click off the video now and go watch one of your home or Ohio State videos. Okay? Offensive comparison between these two teams. Scoring offense rank, Ohio State number 1, Clemson number 4. Ohio State leads the nation in scoring offense with 48.7 points, and Clemson 46.5 per game. Rushing yards per game rank 5th for Ohio State and 10th for Clemson in the nation, and we'll see a little bit more of a reason why that is in a minute. Rushing yards per game, 272 for Ohio State, 252 for Clemson. Yards per carry, 5.6 for Ohio State, slightly higher for Clemson, 6.4. A lot of that has to do with the fact that ETN is leading the nation in yards per carry with 8.2, I think. He's 0.1 yards away if he finishes the season from the all-time yards per carry in the history of college football. The history of college football. Yes, you heard it right. Anyway, very close there, about a yard apart. Yards per game rank, Ohio State. Passing yards per game rank. Ohio State 41, Clemson 20. Now, you can see here rushing yards per game rank, Ohio State 5th. Passing yards per game rank 41st. Clemson 10th and 20th. So what have you learned without even looking at, we're going to look at a pie chart in a second here. But we're learning that Ohio State is a heavy run team compared to Clemson. Okay. Passing yards per game, 258 for Ohio State, 294. So about 30-something whatever. Yeah, 36 points or something difference. 30-something points difference. Yards per game. Passing. Yards per attempt, 9.3 for Ohio State, 8.73. So right around the same for Clemson. All right. Let's look at this pie chart here. And this explains a little bit about the numbers we were just looking at. Ohio State is a heavy run team. 63% of their offensive snaps have been rushing attempts. 624 total on the year. Passing attempts, 37% of their offensive attack with 360 passing attempts on the season. And Clemson, if you look over here, is much more balanced, and this has been their MO. Clemson's always been this way, well, ever post Chad Morris. So the Taj Board years were much heavier passing. Now, I say much heavier, probably not that much heavier, but they weren't as balanced as they have been for the past half of a decade, or at least. And that had a lot to do with personnel. At the time when Clemson, for instance, the 2014 Orange Bowl when Clemson faced Ohio State. With Taj Boyd, Sammy Watkins, Nuke Hopkins, all those guys. That was a pass-heavy team. And it was because of the personnel. But since then, Clemson has been able to build the trenches. Obviously, the offensive and defensive line, NFL-style running backs, and big receivers on the outside. They're built much more like a quote-unquote SEC style of team, Big Ten style of team now than they were in 2014. So they're able to be more balanced. But anyway, so Clemson very balanced. 54% of their attempts are rushing attempts. 46% of them are passing attempts. And I don't know what I just did there. All right. Let's move down to the defensive comparisons here. Defense scoring rank. Defense rank. Clemson's number one in the nation at 10.6 points per game. Ohio State is number 3 at 12.5 points a game. Rushing yards per carry allowed. Ohio State 6, Clemson 9. Here's one thing you can notice. You go back and forth with these rankings with these two teams. And even when one team has a slight edge over another, in almost every category, they're very close. Very close. Rushing yards per carry allowed, 6-9. Okay, rushing yards per carry allowed. 2.8 for Ohio State, 2.9 for Clemson. Yards per attempt in passing rank. Clemson number 1, Ohio State number 2. And they're only 0.02 yards per attempt allowed different between the two of them. I mean, you can't get closer than that. Sack ranked 3rd for Ohio State, 22nd for Clemson. And that's listen, there's an obvious reason for that, right? And I think we all know what the reason for that is, and it's a guy named Chase Young, who's leading the nation in sacks, I think. So yeah. So anyway, big edge for there as far as the rushing the passer. Clearly, Ohio State has the edge in that category. There's no doubt about it. Team sacks. That must be an average, 3.9, 2 to 2.85 for Clemson. So anyway. Now here's the things, and this is the I don't know if it's a link from this particular website or just 24/7 Sports in general. I don't know, but every time I say that I think Clemson has slightly more talent, they give me a link that that leads to something like this. And again, like I said in the beginning of the video, I do not care about composite comparisons between 24/7 Sports and ESPN or Fox Sports or whoever the outlet is. Whether it's any of their opinions or a composite ranking, I don't care. I also have a lot of people telling me that, listen, Ohio State has out-recruited Clemson forever. Forever. Ohio State's always in the top 5 in recruiting every year, even on the years they weren't making the playoffs. Clemson's going to finish probably first in the rankings this year. But before this year, ever since 2010, let's just say this decade, Clemson is averaging somewhere around 10 or 11, 12, somewhere, I think right around 11 nationally. So they've been out recruiting Clemson forever. As far as the stars go, how many 4s and 5 stars you get till this year. But has that mattered? So you've been out recruiting Clemson for the past half of a decade or more, and Clemson is still winning at a higher level over that time period than Ohio State is. So that's the reason I don't pay attention to stars. It's all about developing the talent that you do get, and there's no coaching staff in America that has had more success based on their recruiting ranking average during that time period than any other team, than Clemson, period. So if you want to tell me that you've been out recruiting us, that means you have more talent, I'm going to say, go look at our trophy case this decade. Let's go look at your trophy case and see which one's got more in it. And tell me how much those rankings and the stars matter, because they don't matter to me at all. Well, Isaiah Simmons, the best linebacker in the country, is going to be a top 10 overall pick in the draft, 3-star. Wasn't recruited by anybody, including Ohio State. Same thing with Christian Wilkins, who was a top 10 pick in last year's draft. I think he was a top 10, maybe whatever. He might have went 12th or something. Anyway, my point is, he was a 3-star that nobody recruited from Connecticut. And Clemson's team is loaded with Clemson's NFL players are loaded with players like that. Everybody knows who Adam Humphries is. Right now he's a wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. He was for, I think before that, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 1-star recruit. Making $10 million a year or whatever it is now. So developing talent is much more important than recruiting talent. Otherwise, they just go ahead and give the trophy to the team that has the most 5 stars on it every year, and we wouldn't even play the games. So according to this 24/7 composite comparison, overall, Ohio State is better. Overall offense, they're better. Overall defense, they're better. So according to 24/7 Sports, Ohio State is better than Clemson. According to Las Vegas, Clemson is favored to win this game ever since the opening line. So, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I can guarantee you that Ohio State was better overall offense, defense, and everything when we played in 2014. I can guarantee you that Alabama, in every single matchup that we've had over the past 4 years in the playoffs, was leading Clemson in all of these categories. I can guarantee it. So if this chart right here is what you use to get your information about which team is better, then I'll see you on December 29th, and we can talk about it then. Okay? All right. Again, if I get a chance over the next week or so, of course, next week's going to be rough because we got Christmas next week. Anyway, if I can get a chance to do it, I will. I'll do a little bit more in-depth analysis if I can between some of these key matchups. The key matchups to me, and this is not like breaking, shocking news or anything like that to anybody. It's going to be the Clemson offensive line versus the Ohio State defensive line. That's it. That's it. Also, how can, based on the numbers that we just saw, can we slow down J.K. Dobbins and Justin Fields in the running game and force Justin Fields to have to throw the football? This is the challenge for Ohio State because we're elite in both categories. And I'm not saying Ohio State's not elite in both categories, but we're more balanced. So we don't rely so heavily on either one or the other as much as Ohio State does. So that'll be the matchups I'm looking at. Obviously, T. Higgins and Justin Ross, receivers matching up against these elite defensive backs for Ohio State. Also another very important matchup. So we'll see and if I can get in more into that. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up, whatever. Share, subscribe, the whole 9 yards, yada, yada, yada. See you guys very, very soon. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete checking out.